Pan-O-Rama, the once iconic cultural event in Trinidad and Tobago, turned international excellence, celebrating its 62nd birthday this February, starting out in 1963, 1 year succeeding the independence of our country in 1962. Initially being known as the Best Road March Steel Band Competition, being located in the Queen's Park Savannah, Port of Spain. Hosted and funded by the Trinidad and Tobago Carnival Development Committee, or TTCDC, and the National Committee, or NC. Its first ever winner was the North Stars Steel Band, led by Anthony Williams, the winning song being Mighty Sparrow's Dan is the Man in the Band. The year is now 1963, and the winner of the first ever Best Road March Steel Band competition is the Panside Pan-Am North Star Steel Band, led by one of Steel Pan's most recognized icons, Mr. Anthony Williams. However, this would not be the end. A year later, in 1964, one of America's well-known television hosts, Ed Sullivan, welcomed from Trinidad Mr. Williams and his Panside Pan-Am North Stars as they would play two songs on the show.
Now from Trinidad, here to appear in the Caribbean Calypso Carnival at Carnegie Hall, Anthony Williams World Championship Steel Band and Limbo Dancers. So let's have a wonderful welcome for our Trinidadians. These are made of steel drums. He's 10 years old, the little boy. Let's hear it for the Pan Am All-Stars. amazing limbo dancers. Watch this coming through there. This is incredible. Here is a limbo dancer going under the fire. Let's hear it there. Hold him up there. Let him come through. Here's the Leadless Star from Trinidad. Here you are. What do you call that?
This performance of theirs and other events similar to this would eventually lead to the global fame of the instrument. It is now the late 20th century, and the steel pan has received some major improvements, which partakes in its design, its sound, its note variety, its dynamic performance, and the tuning process of the pans. These improvements are the 4th and 5th soprano pan cycle and spiderwood steel pan design, both invented by Anthony Williams. The refined tuning methods, which include the harmonic overtones in each note, passing for a more subtle and serene sound, and in turn gain the newly gained versatility in the arrangers and performers' style, such as Jit Zamaru, Clive Bradley, Len Buxy Sharp, and Ray Holman. There are many factors to this competition gaining popularity, to the point where calypsonians or soca singers like Lord Kitchener, David Rudder, Black Stallion, and Super Blue sang about the history, popularity, and use of the instrument, which is seen in Lord Kitchener's guitar pan.
They sing on the Iron Man, they sing on the bass, nothing on the guitar pan that does keep the rhythm in place. They hear that lovely strum, but they don't understand the major role the guitar play inside the band.
David Rudder's The Hammer.
Somewhere up in Laventille, many years ago, a man had a hammer, used to follow him to and fro. He used to use it to pong a pan, or sometimes a stupid man, all in the savannah, never miss Pan-O-Rama.
Black Stallion's Mr. Panmaker.
Hail, 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 Mr. Panmaker. I hereby appoint you as steel band savior. Don't you know the whole future of the steel pan? Yes, it lies in you, the pan maker hand.
And in Super Blues Unknown Band.
Unknown band, pass through the savannah, in sweet pan, oh Lord, last year Pan-O-Rama, unrecognized because of their size, but boy the tune they beat, it was much too sweet.
Including the prolific storytellers singing about Pan-O-Rama and the competitive nature of the event, seen in Lord Kitchener's Panini Minor.
Big band, Boogie on the tenor, big band, bringing out the minor, big band, up come the professor, big band, to add to the fire, big band, calling on Bradley Chella's Beverly, which means Desperado. Go answer Tokyo.
And its performers and arrangers, seen in Black Sounds, Dr. J.
Dr. J, congratulations, love, respect from every man, man and woman. We live to see the Japanese get a place, sing a pepe hooray. Dr. J, oh Dr. J, thanks for the music.
And hear these same songs being played by these steel pan bands. As you can see, every steel pan and steel band has gotten an extensive amount of work put into it ever since 1963's first Panorama competition. This saying is indeed true. Each and every steel pan maker is a scientist. Winston Spree Simon, Elliot Anthony Manette, Rudolph Charles, Anthony Williams, Wallace Austin, Alan Gervais, and Bertie Marshall are all examples of this. Knowing that you can be able to hit musical notes into an oil barrel, to then experimenting with finding different notes, and finally finding a way to fine tune every pan to improve its sound from a cockington steel drum to eventually becoming the only official instrument that emerged in the 20th century. That must be the definition of perseverance. Somewhere along the line, the steel pan gained international status, which eventually led to Panama gaining recognition from all of the Caribbean and beyond. At this stage, we will go back down to the 1950s when the Trinidad All Steel Percussion Orchestra, or TASPO, went to England to perform their steel pan music, and the time when two tourists by the names of Peter and Toshi Seeger came to Trinidad to explore the nature of this steel instrument.
I was very musical because my father had 7 brothers and all of them were musicians.
Sterling Betancourt grew up in Trinidad. In the late 1940s, there were intense conflicts and rivalries between local steel bands on the island.
They used to stone the police. They used to be stoning them, and the police have to, down the hill, they have to run. So they used to leave those people on the hills alone to play their pan on the street without permission.
To calm the situation and unite the musicians, it was decided to send one band from the whole of Trinidad, the Trinidad All-Steel Percussion Orchestra, to the Festival of Britain.
We knew nothing about the Festival of Britain, and it's only that, you know, they say, well, we're going to the Festival of Britain, and we say, okay. But then they said, well, listen, we're going to collect money from the people of Trinidad, and everyone donated, and they call it Operation Britain. We went on a banana boat, actually, called the San Mateo.
London is the place for me. London, this lovely city. You can go to France or America, India, Asia or Australia, but you must come back to London City.
I mean, imagine you're coming from a small island, you know, you haven't got traffic light, you haven't got anything, you know, and you see these red buses, you know, going all over the place, you know.
They take you here and they take you there and they...
My God, how I'm going to find my way around this place? You know, it's so enormous. Our impression was, you know, this is a wonderful place.
At nights, when you have nothing to do, you can take a walk down Shaftesbury Avenue. There you will laugh and talk and enjoy the breeze and admire the beautiful scenery of London.
This is at the festival hall, and you see the people there, they're standing around. This is Nathaniel Griffith, the bandmaster. This one is me here. Well, that day it was very funny because we purposely did not paint the drums. They leave it all rusty and we're looking like dustbin, you know. And we set up and, you know, and people start to laugh, you know. They giggling. What these black men gonna do with these old dustbins? When we start up, everybody was shocked. They were looking to see where the music coming from and saying, wow, this is black magic. And we had the West Indians who were there, they were dancing, and it was very nice. And when we finished playing, they want to know where the music coming from. Have they got a recording below there or something like that? And it was fantastic. You can see it young and old, and they were clapping, and, you know, we got a good reception. It was very nice.
How much steel pan music had been heard in Britain before you came?
None. Nobody never knew nothing about steel band. No, they didn't know anything about that. That really opened out the art form of colored people in Britain. So it was worthwhile, the festival. And I hear they have it every 100 years, huh? 60 years ago, I want the whole world to know in 1951 for the Festival of Britain, the Steel Band Association said a steel band must go. After many suggestions, the name a steel bantaspo. So Trinidad all steel percussion orchestra. That is the song that make me remember. I said Trinidad all steel percussion orchestra. That is the song that remains forever and ever.
The music you are listening to comes from a new kind of musical instrument, invented barely a dozen years ago, and made out of the same oil drums you can see rusting in any junkyard. It's called a steel drum. This is made out of the bottom end different note. See what I can do on it. Find out how they are made, you'd have to take a trip down to the island of Trinidad. Trinidad, British West Indies. It's an island about 65 miles long, population 500,000, lies just off the coast of South America. This is their big city of Port of Spain. Each year, for 2 days, these narrow streets are jammed with literally hundreds of thousands of people, singing and dancing in costume to the music of steel bands. I thought I heard one. Let's follow the sound. There in a backyard were a group of teenagers. They called themselves the Highlanders Steel Band, and they were rehearsing for the Carnival Parade just 1 month away. In other corners of the yard were men hammering on drums, making them. After the rehearsal was over, I went over to the leader of the band. I told him how interested I was in his music and asked if he'd be willing to make me 6 steel drums which I could take back to America. We went down to the Esso gasoline depot, got the 6 barrels, and here he is marking them off. The leader's name is Kim Loy Wong. His father is Chinese, his mother Negro, his wife East Indian. That's kind of an all Trinidad combination. He's cutting the top off with a coal chisel and testing it to make sure that it's good and flat. The next step is to heat it up on an ordinary bonfire. It doesn't have to get red hot. Kim Loy said he just heated it until the paint burned off. Then he took it off and let it cool. Then you have to sink it, as they say. That is, hammer it till it's like a shallow basin. But he says you really have to put some elbow grease into it if you want to get it down. He gets every single dent out, smoothing it with his hand. This still has some dents in it, but this one has been well smoothed off. Now comes the tedious part. A very exact pattern has been traced on the surface of the drum, and thousands of taps are made with a nail punch, till you end up with a set of grooves about 1/8 of an inch wide and a 1/16 of an inch deep. The children are standing on it just to steady it for him. These grooves serve to isolate the vibration, so you get a different note from each section. Now comes the miraculous part. Each section is buckled up from the bottom, and as it's hammered, you can hear it adopt a more musical low note instead of a high clang. You can hear him tuning it up from the bottom. Now he turns it over, and he has to tune it down from the top till he gets just the right pitch. They call it punging it up, and it's a hard job to do, you will find if you ever try to make one. I see you. You have to lift it up to see how it sounds. I see. Tapping it underneath raises the pitch up, doesn't it? A man has to have a good ear to tune it correctly, and an awful lot of patience. A man can work a whole day just to get one ping pong in tune. All its 24 notes. You hammer too hard on one note, and maybe the note next to it will go out of pitch. While he's working on this, let me tell you something of how steel drums came to be invented. Around World War II, there were laws passed in Trinidad against regular drums and the traditional bamboo stick rhythm bands. So the young people raided the junkyards, and that year they celebrated Carnival with clanging and banging of garbage cans. Then some genius discovered that a dent in the bottom of a garbage can gave off a musical note, and within a few years they'd worked it up to a regular system. This is called a ping pong. It's the soprano instrument. Of course, a steel band also needs altos, tenors, and basses, and on the fire you see a tenor pan being heated. It's called a guitar pan. The sections are much bigger because the notes are lower. It's made in essentially the same way, however, and here he is tuning it. There's a very definite reason why the notes are in such an irregular order. It's to minimize the dissonance. He lowers the tone when he hammers on it from the top. They're making 6 pans for me to take back to the United States. What I wanted to do is this. I want to, not just to thank you, because thanks is not enough for all the things that Trinidad has given the United States and the world, but I'd like to give you my pledge that wherever I go with these pans, I'll tell the true story of Trinidad as true as I can tell it. And as you know, I can only be here about 1 day more, but your pans will be playing, I hope, all through the United States.
Instead of taking up the pans, you take me up instead of the pans. Put me in the box instead of the pans. I and Renner could like to go up to the United States, you see?
Someday, we'll work towards it. Okay. Well, now that 2 drums are made, they're testing them out to see if they're in tune with each other. Let's listen to them. Uh-oh, not quite in tune yet. They play many different kinds of music on a steel drum. Mambas, rumbas, sambas. They even play American popular songs and classical music too. One man puts down the guitar pan and another man sets it on his lap and picks up where the other left off. Now the man playing the melody has to be an expert, but listen to the man sitting down here. He plays the same thing over and over again. It's one reason a steel drum is a wonderful instrument for an amateur who can't read music. Here Kim Loy, the leader of the band, plays the guitar pan. You'll hear the maracas or sticks, or perhaps they'll take the brake drum off an old automobile and bang on it with a bolt. They call it a cutter or an iron.
There's the cutter in operation. I'm going to walk in and bring the microphone close to one pan and then another pan. We see what happens. Now first, the ping pong plays the lead. And the second pan just plays accompaniment. Here's the guitar pan playing a lower accompaniment. Here's Kim Loy playing the cutter. Here's the bass.
None of the members of the Highlanders band could read music, but their arrangement was very definite all the same. Kim Loy was particular about what each man played. They didn't bother that they played the same melody over and over again. They were aiming at rhythmic perfection. Well, of course, this isn't the end, but the beginning. We brought the drums back to the United States, and you can guess what's happened. All the children in the school where I teach want to know how to make them, and this is a scene in our backyard. Finally comes the first rehearsal of the Dutchess Junction Steel Band.
Well, as you can guess, these have advertised to people outside of Trinidad to be amazed and inspired by the once only Caribbean local instrument, leading them to have their own celebrations of the instrument, specifically being Pan-O-Rama. The first ever Pan-O-Rama competition outside of Trinidad was the Brooklyn, New York Steel Band Competition, held in 1972, organized by Rudolph King and his steel orchestra, the Tropicans, which eventually became Moods Pan Group, who also went on to claim victory in the competition. Another instance of this competition gaining recognition in a different area is the 1978 Emsley Horniman's Pleasant Park Panorama Competition, located in Kensal Road, West London. Predating the Notting Hill Carnival, the winners of that competition being Zach Herbert's Paddington Youth. Then came along more competitions. For example, some were in Antigua and Barbuda and Barbados. There was even a time where an international panorama competition was held by Trinidad, and the rest is history. The future of Panorama may seem distant and unknown, but once it arrives, everyone immerses themselves to have a good time. Whether you are performing on an instrument of a cultural prominence or you are reenacting the same carnival that was played hundreds of years ago, in order for an event like this to not lose their purpose, they do something every once in a while to reignite what the purpose of the event being here is. And as for the steel pan, its purpose for being here is for being the energetic, heart racing, body rocking vibe of any kind of party it is used in, being created by the nation of these national watchwords: discipline, production, and tolerance.